Yeah, right there, lads. Because it is British, yeah? Now, as you can see, I have a relatively minuscule collection of games, especially when you can compare it to other people on the internet. But because of a certain festive holiday, which has recently passed by, I've came into possession of this absolute beast of a handheld. I've also came into the possession of quite a few games for the Game Gear as well, such as this. Ah! What the f***? What the bloody hell was that?
I believe that's what's called foreshadowing.
Fucking hope not. Anyway, as you can probably tell, there's quite a few Sonic games amongst these which I've yet to review. And I think I'm going to start with Sonic Chaos. So let's get right into this shit, or perhaps even good, game. I'm hoping it's the latter.
In case you couldn't already tell, I'm only slightly obsessed with the Sonic the Hedgehog series. From the majestic highs of Sonic 3 and Knuckles to the horrific lows of Sonic Labyrinth and Sonic Blast, the Sonic series has always had me hooked regardless of the quality of its games. Whether that's a testament to the endearing nature of the series and its characters, or maybe it's just a form of Stockholm Syndrome, I'll never know, and honestly I don't really want to know because I've had an absolute blast reviewing these games so far. 2 blasts to be exact.
Oh come on, the one time I tried to make an actual joke.
So obviously when I found out there were a bunch of Sonic games released exclusively for the Game Gear, I was on that shit like a fly on a pile of, well, shit. I've already covered 2 of these games so far, but those 2 were absolute trollops, so let's just pretend for a sec that these games never existed. Also, I'd just like to talk for a minute about how much I love the Game Gear. Not only are there so many brilliant games for it, it also has a pretty decent screen for its time, and also just look at it. This is console design brilliance. And oh god, don't even get me started when a cartridge is inserted in this bad boy. It just looks so perfect, and the size, at least for me, is brilliant. It might not be the most convenient thing to travel around with, but it just fits so perfectly in the hand and it just feels so comfortable. The wrist strap is also a genius addition, preventing idiot kids from dropping and breaking the bugger. I think the only thing I can really say shit about this thing is the battery life. Only 3 to 5 hours on 6 AA batteries. For context, the Game Boy only needed 4 and it lasted a staggering 15 hours. No wonder this grey brick beat the shit out of this black beast in sales. Anyway, let's not get too distracted here. We're here to talk about games, not the console.
So without further ado, let's get into the first Sonic Game Gear game that's of actual quality, or that I hope is of actual quality.
Sonic Chaos was released in November 1993 in Europe, but you probably don't care about that. Let's just get right into the story. The story of this game is just your standard classic Sonic game plot. Robotnik has stolen the 5 Chaos Emeralds. Why the number of these magical plot devices keep changing, I haven't a clue, and it's now Sonic's and also Tails' job to stop him in his tracks. This is shown through a little cutscene which is shown right as you boot up the game, which shows Sonic chasing after Robotnik, who has a massive Chaos Emerald, with Tails trailing behind. As I said, pretty standard, and I'd even go as far as say boring plot.
But you probably don't care about the plot of a game that released over 20 years ago, and to be honest with you, nor do I really. So let's get into the graphics.
The graphics of Sonic Chaos are, I must say, quite impressive for an 8-bit handheld. It certainly looks a lot better than the other 8-bit games I've looked at so far, with the exception of Sonic Blast. Each of the zones, from Turquoise Hill Zone to Electric Egg Zone, has its own unique look. Turquoise Hill looks like your standard Green Hill Zone knockoff, which is immediately followed by the extremely industrialised looking Gigalabala Zone. Not only is the animation in this game quite impressive, it's also got quite a unique look, with brand new sprites for each of the characters, which look brilliant in my opinion.
The music though is just kinda alright.
The music in this game, just like the majority of 8-bit Sonic games, is fine in its own right. If you look at it in a vacuum and don't consider any other soundtracks in the Sonic series, then it's alright. Nothing ear-piercingly awful or anything. But when you put it within the context of the Sonic series, which has produced some of the greatest soundtracks in gaming history, it's not great. Again, not awful, but not great or memorable either.
So now that I've got the sound and graphics out of the way, I think it's about time I stop fannying around and get on with the actual gameplay. Let's go.
Sonic Chaos, just like the majority of the 8-bit Sonic games, is just your standard everyday platform Sonic game. Move Sonic or Tails from the leftmost part of the stage to the rightmost part of the stage, where there'll be a signpost waiting for you, collecting rings along the way to make sure that you don't die. Standard stuff, nothing really special. One thing that is special about this game is its special stage mechanic. That, by the way, is anything but a compliment, but I'll discuss that when I get on to discussing the special stages. The game itself is split up into 6 zones. Each of these are further split up into 3 acts, just like the original Sonic game on the Mega Drive. This, along with its gameplay, is pretty standard for an 8-bit Sonic game. So now I'm going to look at each of the zones individually and take them apart. aka, I'm going to go on a series of semi-related waffles about each of the game zones for a few minutes. So, buckle in. And let's go. Turquoise Hill Zone. As you'd remember, if you have a memory span greater than that of a goldfish, I called Turquoise Hill Zone a Green Hill knockoff, and yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate way of describing this zone. The zone isn't terrible by any means. It introduces the game and its mechanics relatively well. One of those mechanics, or more accurately power-ups, is the rocket shoes. What these do is basically blast you across the zone so fast that it's barely worth picking them up, especially if you're going for the Chaos Emerald. I really don't like these things, but considering that they play a vital role in some of the special stages, I kind of have to deal with them. The boss of this zone is easy. It's a bigger version of these trampoline badniks that are dotted around the zone. All you need to do for this boss is literally just stand still and do a few spin dashes. That's it. I know that the Sonic series kinda has a reputation for extremely easy and underwhelming first bosses, and to an extent that's understandable since you don't want the first boss of a game to be too difficult or it'll turn players off. But at the same time, it's just so easy that it barely even felt worth the effort of programming into the game. Gigalabala Zone. This is basically your standard industrial zone that more or less every Sonic game has. See Sonic 1's Scrap Rain Zone and Sonic 2's Chemical Plant Zone. Now, while those 2 zones were bullshittingly hard and pretty decent respectively, this zone is just bad. It puts on full display the game's absolutely horrible screen crunch and the terrible way in which it deals with enemies. Did somebody say screen Don't you fucking dare! Screen crunch? Don't! Oh, you motherfucker! The way in which this game deals with enemies is less than stellar. Basically, if you don't kill an enemy and it goes off screen, it will respawn back to its original position. Now this combined with the game's absolutely abhorrent screen crunch just makes some of my brushes with enemies and subsequent losses of rings feel like absolute bullshit. This is made worse by the fact that when you get hit and the rings fall out, if they go off screen, they despawn. This is immensely frustrating, especially when you're trying to get the Chaos Emeralds like I was. The boss of this zone is this giant badnik that has a load of balls as a body. When you hit it, one of these balls flies off. It only takes 4 hits to lay to rest, which is bloody pathetic. An immensely unsatisfying boss to end a terrible zone. Sleeping Egg Zone. This zone is alright, I guess. It heavily pushes these bouncy shoes, which I will hereby dub Bouncy Boys, and it's more of a vertical level than it is horizontal. This wouldn't be so bad if the horrid screen crunch wasn't in the way, but you win some, you lose some. The boss of this zone is a robot with this crusher thing at the bottom of it. It's the first actually somewhat threatening boss because it takes more than 4 or 5 hits to take down. It takes 7, the standard for classic Sonic games. It's weird how they just suddenly switched to doing things normally, but I'm fine with it, I guess. At least it wasn't as piss easy as the past 2. Mechanic Green Hill Zone. I don't know if it was because I'd already done all the special stages at this point, so I didn't need to worry about clinging onto my rings, but this zone was so easy. In fact, I bet you could probably just beat this zone by just holding down right and pressing jump a few times. It's weird. Maybe the devs knew this, so they made an actually challenging boss that takes an absurd amount of hits to take down. They probably just took all the hits that the previous bosses should have had and put them into this one. I'm just gonna say that this is the first boss in the game that actually managed to kill us. Aqua Planet Zone. Oh no, this is gonna be a water zone, isn't it?
Fantastic!
Can you please shut the fuck up?
No, you little nerd!
I failed to mention before, but this game has some horrible lag at points. So time for some extremely complex arithmetic. What is horrible lag plus the worst fucking underwater controls I've ever seen in a Sonic game so far? That's right, torture. It's not like the entire act is submerged. In fact, you can quite easily avoid the water for the majority of the acts, but that doesn't change the fact that these underwater controls make me want to fucking hurl. The boss comes in 3 phases. First a group of penguin enemies, then a circular robot, then a penguin missile barrage. It's alright once you learn the patterns and or have a rewind and save state feature on the emulator you're playing the game on. Electric Egg Zone. This zone immediately starts off with a pipe maze, so I fucking hate it right off the bat. But once you've gotten past those pipe mazes, it's not too bad, I guess. The acts are really short, so despite the acts being quite hard, at least they're short and sweet. The boss consists of 2 phases. The first is this walker thing that shoots extremely precise shots. I mean, like, really precise. To the point where I wonder whether this game from the 90s is reading my mind or not. The second phase has Robotnik flying all over with his capsule. You just need to jump on his head one more time and he's done. And yeah, that's it. A general overview of each of these zones in this game. Now, let's get to the part which I really fucking despise about this game. The special stages. The special stages in this zone are really unique, and if it wasn't for the absolutely stupid way in which you get into them, I'd love them. The way in which you get into the special stages in this game is by 1. Being Sonic. Yeah, for some asinine reason you just can't access the special stages as Tails, and 2. Collecting 100 rings. Now at first glance this doesn't seem too bad, but when you consider the fact that when you get hit, regardless of how many rings you're holding, only 5 rings fall out at a time despite you losing all your rings, it can get extremely frustrating. Thank God you only need to collect 5 Chaos Emeralds to get the good end of this game. The special stages themselves are like mini stages in their own right. In the first one you use the Speedy Boys to fly through the sky and collect the emerald and a shit ton of rings. The second one sees you using the Bouncy Boys to bounce up to higher platforms until you reach the one with the emerald on it, etc, etc. These are actually quite fun to learn and take down, although the fact that you only get 10 tries to collect 5 emeralds is a bit on the stringent side. So yeah, that's basically all I have to say about Sonic Chaos. But my thoughts overall, it's okay. If you're not going for the Chaos Emeralds, it's an overly easy, barely worth your time adventure. Meanwhile, if you're actually trying to go for the Emeralds, then it's frustrating as fuck, considering the fact that you have to cling on to 100 rings for an entire act, which is, no, I never want to go through that again. It's not terrible. It's not nearly on the level of shittiness as, say, Sonic Labyrinth or Sonic Blast, but it's not as good as, say, the original Sonic on Game Gear. Now, if you excuse me, I'm going to drown myself in tea.